The impudence, the audacity, the unmitigated gall of those Knuckleheads of Liberty podcasters, daring to voice opinions outside the mainstream of accepted thought. Listen if you dare. It's angry, it's funny, it's even sometimes sad, but it's always based on freedom and justice, as you will see. Here's our host, Jason McPhee.
Welcome to the Knuckleheads of Liberty. We're coming at you on June 8th, 2022. Boy, I tell you, it's always crazy times nowadays with you-know-who in the White House, and we'll get to him a little bit later. But before we get into any of that, let me introduce you to our panel. In our upper left-hand corner, we have our screaming eagle of freedom, Tim Ever. He is a pilot in the state of California. In our upper right-hand corner, we have Leon, the word Brathwaite, last word in Liberty. He is a retired engineer in the state of California. My name is Jason McPhee. I'll be your host today. So we have a lot of stuff happening. One of the things that we haven't really talked much about on the show, but it's probably worth at least talking a little bit about it, is the whole Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial. And you know, it's kind of one of these salacious Hollywood things where who would have thought a dysfunctional marriage in Hollywood? I mean, that's about as common as crazy leadership from a Democrat. I guess it's just kind of a normal thing there. But and with Heard, we saw all of these crazy things come out of the trial, where she literally took a crap on the bed. So yes, that's going to generate memes, apparently just a really monstrous. I mean, if you thought you had married bad, this was an example of how bad it can get, I guess. But, oh, sorry.
Amber did that?
Amber she took a dump on the bed, apparently. It's one of the things.
I tried to lie about it too.
But really? She actually told somebody about it, and it came up as a witness testified in the trial. But anyways, part of the issue is initially what caused all this is that she had written an article, or I guess had the ACLU ghostwrite an article for her about how she was a Me Too victim after she separated from Johnny Depp. And she didn't actually name Johnny Depp in the story, but there could only be one person that she could have been talking about. So everybody knew it was Johnny Depp without her actually saying it. Yeah. And she claimed how she was a victim. And of course, this caused all kinds of, in the Me Too era, this caused all kinds of problems for Johnny Depp. He lost his ability to get those high-paying film jobs that he gets as Captain Jack Black, I guess it is, on the
Sparrow.
Jack Sparrow. Sorry about that. on the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. Hopefully, I got that part right. The Pirates of the Wrong Sea.
Yeah, that's right.
The way those ships looked, I was wondering if that's the kind of honeymoon cruise that Heard and Depp had. So their marriage sounded pretty horrific. But anyways, so he was not able to sell himself as an actor during that time because his name had been just completely dragged through the mud. All of the roles dried up. And so he, but I guess, that was sort of the last straw. I mean, he wasn't able to work, so he sued her for, what is it?
Defamation.
Defamation. That's it. Yeah.
Of character. Yeah.
Defamation of character. Yeah. And he had, there's one other little wrinkle to this too, that I guess they'd also had a lawsuit in England as well that actually didn't wind up going Depp's way in that one, but this one in the United States recently did, and he was awarded initially by the jury like $15 million, with her winning a counterclaim of $2 million, and then it turned out there was a limit, so the jury just blasted past the limit, and they actually reduced it to about $10 million. But the bottom line is really it kind of tests the implications of what is free speech, and I thought it might be worth talking about a little. Here she wrote a story, and she didn't name him, but it was pretty clear she was talking about him, and it totally destroyed his reputation. And for a libertarian, is free speech, should it always be sacrosanct, or should there be some limits on being able to say untrue things about somebody else that might cause them harm? What do you guys think about that?
Well, Jason. I mean, I think you know, but free speech protects us against the conduct and the actions of the government, not against private individuals. So
Well, well, except that this is the government coming in by awarding damages, right, for the actions of private, because Amber Heard's not the one who's literally not letting him work. It's somebody else who's not letting him work based upon the reputational damage that she's done to him, right?
No.
So that's literally the government coming in and saying you don't have a right to say something that might harm somebody else. Right?
No, Jason, no. This is what is happening here, okay? This woman made a statement. It destroys his life. Let's use that word for the time being. It destroys his life. He has a right to go to court and seek redress of that. The government is not telling him to do or not to do anything. The government is just saying, yes, based upon the evidence, we have determined that you did destroy his character. And as a result of destroying his character, you should pay. Free speech is not without consequences. This is the point. People think they could say any damn thing they please. Yes, you can, but there are consequences to saying any damn thing you please. And that's what free speech is. So it's not that the government is stopping Amber Heard from speaking. It is, she must understand that she have a right to speak as much as she wishes, but there are consequences to that speech. That's all.
Well, Leon, let me flip it around a little. So in a case like if Amber Heard came and took a dump on your bed, right, okay, then she's literally violated your property rights. So it's the property rights that the government has given you that are being violated, and that's why the government is stepping in, because she has literally violated your property rights. But in the case of Johnny Depp's reputation, does Johnny Depp have the same property right in his reputation that he does on his bed sheets from Amber Heard being able to come over and take a dump on the bed sheets? Right? Do you have, in other words, do you have a right to your image that's in other people's heads? Right?
Yes.
Because that's essentially what's being assaulted here, right? Is the image that somebody else has in your head, and what somebody else may have said about you that's causing that image to change in somebody else's head.
You have a right to your reputation. That is why companies all over America spend billions of dollars protecting the name of their organization, because your reputation has value.
Under our laws, yeah, but I'm just saying under a libertarian principle of free speech, right? Do you have, I mean, because there's two different things here. One is the laws that our government has versus should you just have a right to free speech, right? I mean, from a libertarian perspective, right?
Well, I do not believe there's anything in society that can occur without consequences of some kind. Okay, so you have a right to free speech. I have a right to free speech. So do you with him. But it cannot be without consequences. I cannot say, Jason, I know you do X, Y, Z, blah, 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 stuff like that with no consequence. And I should just be able to walk away and say, okay, it's over. That's my free speech right. No. It must have consequences. But you're trying to tell me that it should be absolute.
I'm trying to question whether or not the property right of your image in somebody else's head is the same as the sheets on your bed, right? I mean, the sheets on your bed, you literally have a property right to, and that's why somebody can't violate it. But how you're perceived by somebody else is not quite the same thing. That's all I'm saying. So I'm not actually saying necessarily that there shouldn't be any libel laws, but I'm questioning. I guess I'm maybe playing devil's advocate here on should you be able to sue somebody because of how they may tarnish your image. And also too, that brings up the question of motivation. I mean, what if you say something like, oh, I think he did something terrible to her, and you actually had, you had good intent, right? Does that mean that because you're mistaken that and therefore you've altered the image in somebody else's head of you, that you should be that you should not be allowed to say that, or that you should be responsible for, I guess, damages. I don't know. It's kind of, and how do you measure the damage as well? That's another problem.
Jason, that's what we have the courts for. These things have to be adjudicated. I understand the point you're asking, but these things still have to be adjudicated because there's no such thing as absolute free speech. There's no such thing. Even in the libertarian world, I assume we're not going to allow people to yell and scream fire in a crowded theater when there's no such fire. I assume we're not going to allow that. It's not absolute.
I think, in that case, it's, that is an interesting one, because if you yell fire in a crowded theater and it's fraudulent that you're yelling fire in a crowded theater, and so people get hurt and killed, right, then you're actually dealing with actual physical damage, not just, what somebody's thinking in somebody else's head, but you're actually literally dealing with the damage that, causing everybody to run and trample each other and stuff like that. So I'm not 100% sure. I know, unfortunately, I didn't look this up beforehand, but I know Walter Block has made this argument as well, that, that do you really have the right to, should you have the right to say something, even if it's false, if you say, oh, I think the meals at that restaurant are terrible, right? Then, is at what point does that cross the line, as far as defaming that restaurant, right? Does it say, okay, I saw a cockroach in the food when you didn't see a cockroach in the food? Okay, at that point, it's just a flat out lie. But even then, is that something that reputation should alone of the person saying the lie should be what regulates it, or should it be something where we have the heavy hand of government come in and play referee on what everybody says?
But Jason, if in the process of your speech you're destroying my livelihood, which I use to feed my family, maintain my home, and all these sort of things and that kind of stuff, that has to have value. It must have some value. So if that person has a right to say what the hell they want about me, that's fine. But my reputation has some value, and if you're destroying my livelihood in the process of your free speech, that cannot go unchallenged.
Well, I guess what would happen nowadays if somebody said that they thought because of your views you're a homophobe, and then suddenly everybody in Hollywood won't give you a job? Should they not be able to give you a job if... Now, whether it's right or wrong, maybe they thought you were homophobic. I mean, at some point, it's not just the person doing the damage who's saying it. It's also how the information is received, right? And so should somebody be able to say, because in that case, it causes somebody massive damage in Hollywood because they can't get a job because everybody thinks they're a homophobe. So should they be able to sue whoever called them a homophobe?
Yes.
So in that case, does it matter then at some point, if we have very irrational society where the standards are such that if you simply don't like, a certain type of speech, and they say, oh, that guy's a conservative, should they be able to sue them then for saying they're conservative? Because now in Hollywood, they can't get a job because they're a conservative.
What is the damage there? If you say somebody...
Because if nobody will hire them once it's out that they're a conservative, should they be able to say that when they know it's going to cause them damage of being able to get a job, right?
Go ahead, Tim. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Tim. Go ahead.
In your example, are they a conservative? They just don't want to get out?
I guess we could take it either way, whether they are or aren't.
No, they are. Let's say they are.
Okay.
Let's say they are. Somebody calls them out, says they are. They no longer can get a job in Hollywood. Now, who's going to sue who? Or maybe nobody sues anybody. I mean, how do you measure if somebody's a conservative, right? I mean, it may be that a guy like Elon Musk used to be a lefty, and now suddenly he's a conservative today. Who measures whether he's a conservative? But because he's been called a conservative, and let's say he wanted to act, now he can't get a job to act, right? Is that an economic harm that was caused by the person who maybe, that's their honest opinion that he's now a conservative, even though by traditional values, he's not really a conservative, I think. So, I mean, part of the damage is caused by the people hearing it versus just the person saying it, right? You know what I mean? It's not,
It's not completely, like if she comes and takes a dump on your sheets, there's no question. She's completely violated your property rights. There is a damage there, a material damage. But when it's damage that's measured in somebody else's mind, right? It's sort of like, how do you, we all, like, you might hire the guy who says he's a conservative, but now the Hollywood person won't hire the person because they found out he's conservative. So you've done some damage to that person, maybe. But
okay, time out. This was never about damage to his sheet property.
It was not.
I'm still laughing.
No. I'm trying to make the analogy to property rights, Tim. So yes, how do we define this property right?
Well, okay. It doesn't necessarily have to be property that we are defamed over, because as Leon has pointed out, if you have damages to your ability to earn income, that's real. That's just as real as if you were trampled in a crowded theater. It's exactly the same thing.
Thank you.
In one instance, somebody fraudulently, and they lied and caused a stampede that caused an injury, physical. In another instance, somebody lied and caused damage to an individual, an innocent individual, but caused substantial economic hardship on them. That's a real damage. That's something that, yes, you can go to court over. In your other example, where, by the way, before I go to that let me hit the other example where you were talking about a person that was a conservative, and he really was, and word got out, and now he can't get a job. Who's he going to sue, and over what? It's never a lie. It wasn't a lie. They didn't make it up. He really is conservative. It's just that he's in the wrong industry. He's got to get a new job. I'm sorry. If that's the way Hollywood is going to be, and if that's the truth and reality of it, and if you're a conservative, you can't get a job or whatever, or you're a homophobe or whatever, but it's true that you are.
But
whatever the truth is.
But what is the truth? That's the issue with the conservative, right?
Okay.
How do you tell whether somebody's a conservative?
Well,
I think we have good definitions of who a conservative is. I mean, everybody could look around, listen to us on this show and know, well, Leon is more conservative. I know that you guys are more libertarian than I am. I think everybody can make that determination.
That's literally what Elon Musk was putting out in his whole attack that has been made against him, is that he claimed he was left of center before, and that suddenly other people have changed, and now they're claiming that he is right of center. In fact, in the meme that he shows, they're literally calling him a racist. Now they think he is a racist. In their minds, that's an honest truth, right? So how do you determine then? Well, but if it causes him damage and he becomes labeled that way, and he says, "But I'm not," but by their standards, they are. Is it more important who says it or who hears it? Right? The damage is a combination.
No, it's more important who says it. This is boy who cried wolf. And the Democrats and liberals have cried this nonsensical white supremacist, homophobe,
white privilege,
conservative, all this stuff, all these names so many times, called so many people. You're in the pocket of Putin, their favorite thing lately, and all these things so many times. Anybody with half of a brain is no longer going to listen to that and believe it, and they're not going to go, "Oh, the Democrats called Tulsi Gabbard a Putin associate. Can you believe that? That bad old Tulsi?" No, nobody thinks that, because they're except the most idiotic, moronic Democrat among them. That's
apparently most people. Of the Democrat Party does, because she's not getting any prominent role in the Democrat.
Well, I have to agree with that, Jason. That part of your statement, I agree with. I do agree with that part of your statement.
No, you know why they cut her out is because she was not going to go into warfare and be a puppet to the military-industrial complex. That's it in a nutshell. That's the only reason. They brought out that Putin crap, but that doesn't mean anybody bought into it. They did buy into the simple fact that she would have kept us out of unnecessary wars, unlike our commander-in-chief that they did elect. And why? Because he's a moron and an easy puppet for them to manipulate. And that's it and only it. Tulsi, yeah, anyway, that's it. That's all I'm going to say about Tulsi. But
the whole thing here is that, I'm sorry, Tim, did I cut you off? Tim, I'm sorry.
I was just going to add one more thing. Jason, I'm going to clear something out. You mentioned that our property rights came from government at the very beginning of your dissertation. Did you really want to say that our property rights do not come from God or nature or our human nature, but comes from the government?
No, what I'm trying to say is that we've established a set of laws that allow the government to intervene to protect our private property, right? I mean, that's the whole point of having a government, right? Is to be able to protect your private property. What's the point of having a government?
Is not, no, Jason, you're stating that incorrect. I'm sorry. The government is not intervening. We are making a choice to go to court where the government does act based upon the evidence we present. That's not the government intervening. That's not the same thing.
Well, you're enacting the force of the government on somebody else based upon the damage you think that they've caused you. So I mean, you are getting the intervention.
If you have evidence to prove that case, yes.
But that's the point, right? So you're able to get government to intervene on your behalf, just like with property rights, where you show that somebody came in and crapped on your sheets, then therefore you can bring in the government to say, hey, this person violated my property rights. Right.
That's a bad analogy, in my opinion, about this case. Here's the person broke a law. Amber Heard broke the law and defamed somebody with a lie. Isn't that against the law, Leon?
If you can prove that somebody has defamed somebody, I'm just saying from a libertarian perspective,
there we go.
Should it be? But but the difference is we're not talking necessarily about the law, right? Because it was the law that all the Jews get on the train in Germany, right? And that doesn't mean it's correct. I mean, as libertarians, we're trying to figure out what should be allowed.
You want to go outside the law, okay? You want to go into the issue of whether it is moral or whether in a libertarian world this should be allowed or not, is what you're saying, right?
Yeah, I mean, exactly. Yeah. I mean, should this be something that the government gets involved in or not? That's the issue, I think. And so I believe me, I'm really happy for Depp that he won in this case. But I'm just trying to wonder about the implications on speech, right? If somebody can say something that can be interpreted by somebody else in their head to cause you damage, at what point are you able to constrain their speech? Because I mean, that's really what we're talking about here.
Well, then let me turn this around, Jason, and let me ask you a question then. In the libertarian world, we are in the libertarian world now, okay? What do I do if somebody is damaging my reputation to the point of damaging my ability to feed my family and to maintain my home? What recourse do I have?
Yeah, and that's for some people who are hardcore libertarians, they'd say, well, you're hoping that the market will sort of regulate that in the sense that somebody who tells lies all the time, just nobody's going to believe them, is what you're hoping is going to happen. But I mean, we're seeing the same thing happen with Rittenhouse, and this goes to exactly your guys' point, where a lot of people in the press completely defamed Rittenhouse and told outright lies about him. I mean, it was no question. It wasn't like they said some kid in they said Kyle Rittenhouse, and they called him a white supremacist and every other terrible thing in the book. Yeah. And now he's had damages, so that have occurred in his life. And so should he be able to? And I'm sympathetic to this. I'm just, at what point do we want, I guess, government being the arbiter of speech? That's
okay. You can pull my anarcho-capitalist membership card if you want, but to me the courts are necessary for figuring out these kinds of issues and more, but the courts are the arbiter of the truth, so that they find, in situations like this where he said, she said, you're going to find out who said the truth and who lied. And that's what is I'm okay with that as a libertarian. I'm fine with that. Okay, so pull my anarcho-capitalist card. I'm off the reservation in that regard. And I'm in favor of having a court system within which we get to arbitrate these kinds of disputes, one libertarian to another.
There you go.
Okay.
But I want to make this point, okay, Jason, and I don't know if this will clear up our little disagreement here. What we are talking about here, two private individuals have a dispute, and they have chosen a forum where that dispute will be arbitrated and adjudicated. That's all. And if two private individuals have made the choice to allow the courts to do it, I cannot see how that violates any libertarian principles.
I don't agree with you, though. That's not exactly what happened. If he sues her, if she doesn't answer, she automatically has to pay. So it's not like they both choose to go to court. You're making it sound like they both made an agreement to go to court here and adjudicate this, and it's not the case. He literally is suing her, and the government will come and take her money away if she does not come and answer that. So she's forced to answer, or she automatically has to give up the money. Yeah. Now, I'm not saying necessarily that makes your case wrong or anything. I'm just saying that point, though, is not true.
Wait, hold on. Jason, are you an American citizen?
So you're saying that we are all under the contract of American law by virtue of
exactly. We are under the contract.
You're a social contract person.
We are choosing to be under that contract, and if we choose to be under the contract, we are choosing the courts to adjudicate our differences.
Okay, so you're for the social contract, just to have that on record.
Right? I am for the Constitution of the United States. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, with that, I think we made some great points here, and I think it's hopefully we've illuminated a little bit about the different possibilities in the argument here. Certainly, yes. The other guys have much stronger opinion on it, and I'm kind of somewhere in the void, I think. But anyway, speaking of the void and no man's land, let's jump to Knucklehead Noise Patrol, because we do have kind of an interesting one this week, and it's as promised. We were going to invoke Biden here, and after the Uvalde shooting. And we were hoping to get into that. Hopefully we'll get back to that on another show when things are a little more resolved. But Biden was talking about the different calibers of weapons and why they should be, all the reasons why they should take your guns away. And so one of the things, let me read this quote to you. And so what he was said, as I sat with it. Oh, and by the way, most times Biden gives these anecdotes from his life. They're false, just in case you haven't looked. So just take it with a grain of salt when he said he has a story to tell you. Maybe we can sue him for the damages he's doing. But he says, and I sat with a trauma doctor and I asked him, I said, what's the difference? I said, why are they dying? And they showed me x-rays. He said, a 22 caliber bullet will lodge in the lung and we could probably get it out. Maybe get to it and save the life. A 9mm blows the lungs out of the body. You lying face, dog, pony, soldier, pony, or whatever. I don't know. I added that other on. That was from another. Yeah. And maybe we could get an image of this up too, James. This is from this is Biden talking about the 9mm and why he wants to ban it. And it wasn't even the gun that was used, I don't think so. And here's just a little show of bullets and their sizes, their relative sizes. So we see the 9mm a lot farther on the small side of the scale, which means that when they say they're coming for your guns, if they want to take away your 9mm, they're pretty much taking almost everything off the table. So anyways,
the actual round that was used is the one on the far right, the 5.56 .223. That's a 22 caliber. .22 is 22. 22 caliber, just the same as a 22 LR. Over there, it's going a heck of a lot faster though, and that's where it does its damage, especially close range. So, this, the 9mm is just your typical pipsqueak handgun round, and it won't blow anything out of the body. Maybe a gallbladder. I don't know. So, or maybe a gallstone, perhaps. But anyway, yeah, this is just typical Biden. You know, he's a moron, and he just can't. He doesn't know what he's talking about anything, especially related to firearms.
He's a cognitively challenged moron. So what could I say? Is there anything else to be said more than that?
Not really.
God help us with this guy. That's all.
So if only women should be allowed to make laws about abortion, then perhaps only people that know anything about guns should be allowed to make gun laws. What about that?
Or maybe gun makers.
Yeah.
Somebody who's birthed the gun.
Yes.
Crazy.
Yeah. Well, unless there's anything more to add, I think that we went really long on one topic.
We did.
Yeah, we did.
But I think it was a rich dive.
Yes.
But anyways, until the next time, do what you can to stay free out there.
Yes, indeed.
Okay.
Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, always and forever.
Thank you for listening to the Knuckleheads of Liberty podcast. Find us on Facebook, Rumble, YouTube, your favorite podcast network, and at knuckleheadsofliberty.com.